Okay, guys, so welcome to episode 1 of the New Mindset series. This is the true path to lasting success. Okay, so here's the introduction. So welcome, guys. And as I said, thank you for taking the time to be here today. I know that time is valuable and I appreciate that you've invested your time here with me in the belief that you'll learn something from it. And I absolutely think that you will. So this session will be recorded. And if you want to watch it back, just hit me up. Link will be sent out. Any questions you've got, just ask them in the chat. I'll probably answer each question once I finish the point that I'm discussing, or if I think that the question is not going to slot in well to the explanation, I will actually discuss it at the end. Okay, so part 1 is the first step. And I could think of no better place to start such a profound conversation than the first step. So what is the first step to achieving success in anything? In my belief, it's planning, because before you launch yourself into a crazy work drive or you start lining up business meetings with partners, you need to get very clear on what you're actually setting out to achieve in whatever you're wanting to achieve success in. So the first question to ask is, if you want to start this long journey towards success, and it is a long journey because things in life take time, particularly if you have very ambitious goals, the first thing you need to do is get extremely clear on exactly what it is that you want to set out to achieve success in. And this might sound like a very simple step, but you might be surprised to hear that we encounter a lot of people who don't really think it out. And because of that, they tend to find themselves flying at 100 kilometers per hour down the highway with no headlights on. And they're missing turnoffs and they're all the way through this journey, but they kind of lost the sight. They lost the vision of why they originally set out on this path. So what we're going to focus on in this segment is getting very clear on what you want and getting very clear on exactly how you plan to execute this. So you guys will know that when it comes to me and learning, I like to approach things from a very logical perspective. I like to really plan out as much as possible, because I believe that the more that you can plan for, the more that you can sort of weed out failures in their early stages. And I think that in a lot of instances, the failures that we see in business and in life are because people didn't really take the time to complete their planning. So there are 5 questions which I'm going to give you to help determine this path. Question 1 is, what do you need in life right now that you don't have? So this is basic, fundamental level. You want to know what you want to succeed in. The first question you've got to ask is, what is it that you're lacking in? Because once you figure out what you're lacking in, you can figure out where you want to take that. The next one is, will this plan result in you moving closer towards what you need? Or is it actually just going to be wasting time and not really pushing you closer to it? So this is, how are you going to make sure that what you're going to be doing here is actually going to push you closer to what you're looking to achieve success in? The third one is there something else which you could do which would move you to this point faster? So a lot of time people get attached to a specific route because they have an infatuation about it. They think that this is the best and only way that they can move forward. So this question addresses that by asking, is there something else that you could be doing? Or is there a particular reason why you've chosen this specific path? The fourth question, are you willing to commit to this plan for as long as it takes? Because that's another very interesting thing we see, is that people can be on path. They can be working in track with their values. They can be working aligned with their purpose. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how aligned you are, because if you're not willing to truly commit the effort, you won't arrive at the final destination at all. And that's going to be counterproductive. So the fifth question, and this is a very important question, is, what is the number one fear that is holding you back from starting? Now, I can relate to this at many points in my own journey. I can relate to this in this story that I'm doing here. This is the first time I've ever come on here with the camera on, and that was something which I was held back from doing for a long time. So that was and the big fear, I guess, was just something in my mind that I didn't want to do it. And I want to share that example of myself so that you can think of other examples in your life when you've wanted to do something, but you haven't done it because you had that blockage, you had that fear. Because at the end of the day, fear is what holds us back. And that's why in Bloomers, we spend so much time. I deconstruct fears in such a complex manner, because I understand that that fear is what really does hold us back. Okay. So by answering these 5 questions in detail, you can get very clear with yourself regarding the details of your plan. Even by just answering these 5 questions, your probability of success is going to absolutely skyrocket. Very simple, 5 questions. You can answer those 5 questions in 10, 15 minutes with a great answer, and up goes your rate of success quite exponentially. So talked about that. Some common fears. I think it's good to share some common fears. The fear of failure, definitely a very common fear. People don't try things because they're worried that they're going to fail. And in my opinion, that is a failure in itself. The failure to act is a failure. So in my opinion, the fear of failure is an invalid line of logic. The fear of social ridicule, I think that exists within all of us to some degree. I had plenty of fear of social ridicule doing this. It's just something that you have to work through. But the best way is to just overcome it. And by overcoming it, by simply throwing yourself into the deep end and overcoming it, you will overcome those fears. The fear of wasting time. To some degree, I could easily say that I would have the fear of wasting time here. There would be, if not enough people show up, if no one shows up to this event, I would have a small perception in my mind that one, I was being socially ridiculed, and two, I was wasting my time. Now, I know I wouldn't be truly wasting my time because I know I'm going to record this session and many, thousands of people will end up seeing this session. But that is the line of thought that I go through. And I share this experience with you because I want you to be able to experience these fears through exactly what we're doing here today. You guys know that if you've learned from me that I have a high value on this transparent teaching. I think that you guys learning from me while I'm teaching you is one of the best ways that you can accelerate your learning curve. We all experience fears, and I experience fears as well. Just because I authored the process which allows us to get through those fears doesn't mean the fears don't pop up in my life. I still get the fears, and then I can resolve them in real time. And in my opinion, that's really good for you guys because you can see exactly how I'm operating the process which I've given to you. And if you have any other questions about how to dissolve fears, just drop them in the chat. Next one, the fear of wasting money. I think a lot of people don't do things in life because they've got the fear of wasting money. So it's a valid line of thinking, stops people, and etc. So what I'm saying there is those are just a couple simple fears which people are going to get held up on, but when they're trying to start something in life. Now, people fear everything until they realize that they might actually be able to achieve success. And I believe that this is largely correlated to the fact that society generally doesn't do a very good job of pushing people towards doing inspiring things with their life. You guys know that I don't hate society by any degree, but I don't like a lot of aspects of it. And I'll openly say that many times because I don't think that society helps us out in the way that it could. I don't think it's a supporting environment. I think it's an over-challenging environment, and that causes us to not learn effectively. Because as we know, peak performance, peak growth occurs on the borderline between support and challenge. Society provides a lack of support and an over pronunciation of challenge, and that impacts us very negatively. So to round up part one, when it comes to actually planning, before you even get to that stage, you want to spend some time getting real with yourself about whether this is actually the perfect path for you, or if you've basically just been swept up in a marketing campaign, or if you've been swept up in someone else's vision. Because it's important to be aware of that in this day and age, there are genuine people around, but there's also a lot of people who are really just trying to capture your attention and capture your money and not really provide any value. So that's something that you should be aware of. Okay, so that was part one. Any questions in the chat, I'll answer them. Part two is laying the foundation. So at this point, by the time you reach part two, we assume that you've already got something you'd like to achieve. And for that, I would say congratulations, first of all, because by being ambitious enough to actually come up with an idea you'd like to achieve, you're already placing yourself in the top 5% of society's intelligence. And that is something that you should be proud of. Now, next up, the first major step to successful planning is laying down a clear foundation. And this is a very important step. I would say part two is pretty much the bulk value contained in this whole webinar. So really pay attention and really tune into this bit. So as I said, the first major step to success is planning a clear foundation. You want to start whatever you're doing with a solid platform. Doesn't matter if it's a business, doesn't matter if you're looking to get more healthy, doesn't matter if you're looking to improve your mental health. The critical concept here is that whatever you're trying to do, you need to start with a solid foundation, and that is built in the planning phase. It is strategized in the planning phase and it is developed in the implementation phase. So if you're building a business, and I'm going to relate this to business because I am building a business, we have a business here. So this is an example which I can relate to and actually provide genuine life knowledge about. if you're building a business, this is going to consist of: one, developing efficient business systems. You don't want to be doing a massive amount of administration work because that's just going to bog you down. It's going to slow you down and you're not going to be moving through efficiently. Two, intelligent cash flow structures. If your business does not have an intelligent cash flow structure, your success will be greatly hindered. Three, maintaining positive client relations. If you don't have positive relations with your clients, they are not going to stick around, and that is going to negatively impact you. Four, product diversification. You need to make sure you are solving a wide variety of challenges. And five, building a high quality team, because if you don't have a high quality team, it's just going to be very difficult for you. So those are 5 examples about how building a solid foundation is going to help you build a solid business. Now, for an example which some other people can relate to, and I believe that to some degree, everyone who's watching this can relate to these next 5 examples, because not everyone on this planet is building a business, but everyone on this planet has to value their health. Whether you do that or not determines your quality of life, but the core lesson is everyone has health, everyone is impacted by health to some degree, and so everyone has the potential to relate to this. If you're looking to increase your overall health and life, you should look at 5 things. 1, sourcing a high quality source of organic vegetables. You need to have your good quality organic vegetables. 2, removing sources of stress from your life. You need to make sure that you are not being stressed all the time. You're not living in fight or flight, cortisol release mode all the time, because that's going to be very difficult for you and your body entering homeostasis. 3, you need to find a high quality source of water. When I lived in Dubai, I wouldn't touch the water at all. When I lived in Australia, I wouldn't touch the water at all because it was fluoridated and it was having chlorine in it. I don't need either of those things. Here in the Netherlands, the water quality seems to actually be quite good. So good on you guys for actually having nice water quality. 4, increasing exercise. Everyone can benefit from doing exercise. I think that's pretty standard. Even if it's just getting out and walking. I'm getting out and doing a 4 or 5 kilometer walk every single day just to clear my head, because by the time I get to the end of the afternoon and I'm 6, 7, 8 hours into work day, I need to have that break before I move into my evening work session. Otherwise, it's just going to be too stressful. And also starting meditation. So anyone can benefit from starting meditation. So as I said, to do a quick recap, what we're talking about here is how you can build foundations in your life to increase your rate of success in anything you're doing. It doesn't matter what you're doing. This is a universal formula. By building a strong foundation after your planning phase, you are going to achieve a higher degree of success. I think that's the universal truth. So what we're doing here is we're laying down a foundation. We're implementing a set of core life changes or action steps so that you can actually complete something which is tangible on a day-to-day basis. Okay. So to recap what we've discussed up until this point, first you need to get clear with what you want. Step 1 is you've got to get clear with what you want. Step 2, you've got to make sure you actually are willing to do it and that it's something that you actually want to do. And then you need to develop strategies to prevent yourself from resisting the progress due to fear. So you need to get clear on what you want, you need to develop strategies, and you need to make sure that you're not going to be holding yourself back through fear. And then once you've done those 3 preliminary steps, what you need to do next is start building. And what that looks like is you need to structure your life around your goal. Whatever you're trying to achieve, whether it be health, wealth, business success, social fame, fortune, whatever it is, you need to develop your life around that. You need to live and breathe that success. And that's what's ultimately going to push you closer towards it. Because like I always say, if you want to achieve success in business, it should be the first thing you think about when you wake up, and it should be the last thing you think about before you go to sleep, because you embody, you embrace that. We're talking about implementing this goal into your life so that you can't move through your life without achieving success in this goal. You can't progress through the day without moving forward. That's intelligent structuring of one's routine. So does anyone have any questions regarding that? If so, drop them in the chat and I'll answer them. If not, we'll move on. So in part 3, we're talking about optimization. Now, once your foundation is well developed, you will start seeing the early signs of success begin to appear around you. As you solve more problems by developing solutions, the impact of these solutions will begin to take effect in your life. So once again, relating this to a business example, because that's something which I can heavily relate to. Once you have a product and your product is serving people, you are going to start seeing financial reward enter your life as a consequence. It's cause and effect, hermetic principle, cause and effect. So to relate it to a health example, Once you've actually implemented lifestyle changes into your routine, you're going to start feeling better, you're going to start looking better, and you're generally going to start having a more enjoyable and healthy life. And I think this is a universal truth as well. And that's why I say that a dollar spent on quality healthcare is a dollar that you will always receive a return on investment from. So what comes next in this journey? We're moving towards success and things are going good, but what now? What do we start doing after we're at that point where we're living our core values and we're starting to move forward for whatever our goal is on a daily basis? How do we go forward from here? We ultimately want to arrive at expansion and scalability. In whatever we're trying to do, we want to arrive at the point where we can introduce automation and increase our efficiency. But there's something that we've got to do before this point. And what that is studying the marketplace. We need to make sure that the marketplace is ready for it, and we need to make sure that our product is actually ready for that. So let's have a look. So before a company goes out and mass produces a product, what do? They do quality control, analysis, review, and improvement. And this is what we're going to be focusing on in the next step. If we hit this stage, we know that we're already doing well. We know that we're making steps, but what we don't know is whether what we're implementing into our life is going to work on a larger scale. So what we're going to do is sit down and think about as many potential future problems as we can. We are going to intentionally create future problems in our mental plane so that we can, ahead of time, strategize for them and completely remove them from the playing field. So we're going to take these solutions and we are going to implement these tweaks into our product or whatever we're doing, your health routine, to ensure that these problems are no longer going to be able to occur. This is preventative maintenance in every sense of the term. If you're a mechanic and you look at your car and determine that the battery is going to die soon, you replace it before it actually dies so that you don't get stuck somewhere. This is the same principle in business. If you see a problem, if you see a cash flow problem coming on the horizon, if you see a client relations issue, step in and fix it ahead of time. Otherwise, you will be swept by the consequences. So preventative maintenance is a very effective technique in anything, but particularly business, because you don't want to start marketing and you don't want to start scaling a product before you know that it's perfect, because otherwise you're wasting your marketing budget, you'll be receiving incorrect results from your advertising and so forth. So our goal in this stage of development is to remove as many potential issues as possible before we move forward into the scaling up, the introducing this big time into our life. All right, that's part 3. Gonna have a drink. Any questions about part 3? Put them in. Okay, part 4. Part 4 is basically the phase where we start moving into what we were just discussing. Part 4 is scalability and expansion. So at this point, your life is really starting to get moving forward, or your business, whatever it is, whatever you're working on. But if you hit part 4, then you're moving forward. You're moving and shaking, you're generating income, you're improving your health, things are moving forward. Now, I want to share a quick piece of wisdom here before I start this explanation. Time is the most valuable asset in life. That's it. Time is the single most valuable asset in life. It's not money, it's time. Why? Because you can't get more of it. Once you run out, you're out, you're done. And so part 4 is about time. It's about figuring out a method where you can continue to implement everything we discussed in the previous 3 parts, while also reducing the actual amount of time input that you need to invest into it. So if you run a business, this is going to be focused on building automated business systems which do your job for you. In other business examples, this is going to consist of delegation and hiring. You basically build a business, and if you want to have an example of a successful way to implement this, you go and build a business, not like a blue mess business, not like a service business, but one which is a bit different, one which is less required on having a high level of knowledge. And then you go and create a system which helps people, and you go and hire other people to fulfill that system so that you don't have to be there anymore. So by doing that, you've created an automated system and you don't have to be involved in that anymore. Now, this is all focused on building automated business systems which do your job for you. And it's very effective. But as I said, not all business models are capable of doing it. But if you do have one which is capable of doing it, yeah, it's a very interesting concept. So in areas of life such as health, delegation is going to come into play here a bit. So for example, if you're training in the gym for 2 hours a day, maybe you should consider getting a personal trainer so that you can work faster and more efficiently. You can maybe take that 2-hour training session to a 1-hour training session if you had the correct motivation. If you're working on your health, maybe consider outsourcing meal production to a private chef or a health food organization. It's about saving time. It's about keeping your time input going down. So you want less time input and you want more result output. It's mastery of time. It's a very important concept. How can I get the same benefit or even more benefit from investing less time? These are questions which are worth asking yourself. Now, a key question that many people ask me when I talk about this is, why would I even need to do this? Why is time so precious? And the primary reason is because when your time becomes freed up, you can now begin to work on other aspects of your life. So say that here you are and you're empowering your business life and you've empowered your finances and now you're feeling pretty good about your money. But your health is starting to take a dip because you worked so hard. Now that you've got your money game sorted and your business is automated and you've got your intelligent business systems working day in, day out for you, you can now begin to turn your full attention towards your health with all of the financial power that's being generated from your business. So if you're focused on building wealth before, and that was your sole focus, maybe now it's time to automate that and move on to health. And that's what the idea is here. It's that you can systematically walk through your life and pick every single area and empower it selectively and empower it intelligently, refine it, scale it, automate it, and then move on to the next section. And by doing this, it will take you probably 5 years, depending on your intellectual capacity. Could take you 1 year if you really want to work for it. And then every single area of your life is ridiculously empowered. And here you are standing in your mansion wondering what you're going to do for the rest of your life. And that's a very realistic timeline, to be honest. If you're going to actually implement a system like this, where you are just empowering every area of your life, it's not going to take you very long, because as soon as all your health is sorted, you don't have to think about that anymore. Cooking, you don't worry about that. Your private chef does that. Your employees get the food, the chef cooks the food, you just walk up and eat it, and then back to your business or back to whatever you're wanting to work on in life. Delegation, extremely powerful, extremely underutilized by the masses, mainly because they can't afford it. And that's the thing to consider about delegation. Delegation, it's a high level tool. It's not necessarily available to the 99%, and that's why they can't receive the benefit from it. But you should use that as motivation to up yourself into that 1%, because the second that you get access to delegation, your perception of reality just undergoes a massive shift. Everything changes because you get more time. I think this is definitely going to be a session where you're going to want to watch it back and you're going to want to really slowly move through it, and you're going to want to really dissect those points, because I know that you guys know this, but the stuff that I'm talking about here, this is extremely valuable information. I mean, a delegation alone is worth learning about. It is so important. Delegation is something which we can have a conversation about. To be honest, we can talk about delegation because we are the type of people who are going to elevate ourselves to the level where delegation becomes a useful concept for us. So it's wise for us to start having these conversations about delegation. I wouldn't have this conversation with someone who is just walking down the street, because I understand that to them, it's of no use. It's astronomically out of their realm of conceivable reality. But in our case, it's very relevant.